Hello everybody, it's BWildcat2 here, back today with episode number 22 of the TCU Big Troll Coaching Carousel here in NCAA Football 13. Not a live commentary, obviously, but this is week 12 of the season, of the 2012 season. We are 9-1 after that thrilling victory over the Kansas State Wildcats last week, and number 4 in the country. Yes, no Herbert Rowe this week, as this is our bye week, and we're going to take a look at some of our recruiting class here in week 12. This is nothing new. You've seen this before, but I'm just going to talk to you guys about what's going on in the video and what I have in store for the rest of this series. So, as you can tell, week 12, we're pretty much almost done with this season, as Andrew Keenan will remove him from the board because he has committed to Oklahoma State, but everybody else has committed to TCU that we have hard commits for. We have a soft commit to TCU there in a guard, and we also have a few soft commits that are not to TCU, but scouting Jared Brady, finding out he's a 64 overall, -3, and we've got him fully scouted. Now we're going to scout this JUCO center from Atchison, Kansas, who's got us first on his board ahead of Oregon in Luke McCollum, and we're going to unlock all of his attributes. So we get it, he's a 61 -1 through all the 100% scouted. And we're going to, I believe we're going to scout Haram Rogers the rest of the way, or try to anyway, the halfback from West University, Texas. But anyway, like I said, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what I have in store for this series. I don't want to talk about much of the scouting or the recruiting classes. If something happens, like somebody commits, I will mention it. But I do not recall whether anybody commits this episode or not. If you want to find out, you can keep watching. But I want to say this, as far as what I have planned for the rest of this series. Obviously, with NCAA 14 coming out now in just under 2 months, it's May now, and I think it comes out July. Is it July 14th, 15th, something like that? It's in the middle of July, I believe, that it comes out. And now being near the end of May, actually recording this commentary, we've got less than 2 months to it. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to definitely finish off the season, and then if you guys want me to start season 2, I can. But I will probably show you the off season, how that works out, and like show you some of the guys that we could, or that we will have, and how they could perform on the field if we did another season of this. But it's going to be tough to do more than just one season of this series before NCAA 14 comes out. And I mean, what better way to finish off this series than with a big bowl win and the off season after that? I don't want to start something that I know I can't finish. So, I mean, maybe I can show you guys a few games. We can live stream it, have a good time. If you want me to do that, maybe like as a way to send off NCAA Football 13. But what I had in store was I'm definitely gonna finish the season, and I was planning to show you the off season, and then maybe post 1 or 2 games just as like a quick preview to season 2 and NCAA 14 if I decide to do this again. The Big Troll Coaching Carousel, that is, again in NCAA 14. Now I'm going back and forth with myself, deciding whether or not I want to take this series into NCAA 14 or whether I want to start again with a new series. I think I'm at this point right now, I'm leaning more towards starting a new one, just because I'm familiar. I know I'm familiar with TCU, and I hope to be going there at least pretty soon. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I had a little brain fart there. But I want to go somewhere like that I'm not too comfortable, or that I'm not it's not that I'm not comfortable with it, it's just that it's not familiar to me. If comfortable is not the right term in that situation. It's familiarity is what I'm looking for. So I was thinking, I wanted to do SEC school, and I don't really like the TCU. This TCU series has been fun because they're not the best team in the world, but they're a really good team, and especially how I know how to run the option with this team. I know how to run the spread offense with the Horned Frogs, and this series has been a lot of fun for me. And as you can tell, I mean, we've won 7 in a row now in this series, because after our loss to Arkansas, we have not lost since then. And with Texas and Oklahoma, those are two big games coming up that could potentially decide who wins the Big 12. Like I said last week that this was for the lead or for the Big 12, but you know what? Oklahoma, I forgot to mention this, but Oklahoma is right there. Like, if we lose another game in Oklahoma, or if we lose to Oklahoma, they will become the Big 12 champions, because they are right on our tails. And Texas is only one back. So if we lose to Texas and lose to Oklahoma, and Texas wins against us and against, I think they beat Oklahoma earlier in the season too, so Texas could get it done. So we got big games coming up in the next coming weeks, so you guys need to stay tuned for that. And also for the rest of this season, this could decide. I mean, we just defeated the number 2 team, Kansas State. We're number 4. We could fall from here. We could go up from here. If we can beat Texas and Oklahoma, we'll definitely have a BCS bowl. But as a one-loss team, we still have the option of becoming, going for that national championship. Like, if we can have some help from some other schools with our ranking, or with how the rankings go, I think a national championship would be big. It would be huge for this series to send it off into NCAA 14 with a national championship in Big Troll's first season as offensive coordinator, only losing one time to Arkansas, who is struggling. I mean, they're in the SEC, and the SEC is really rough this season. I mean, it's definitely one of the leagues that you don't want to mess with it. I think the Big 12, with all these teams that are log jammed at the top, with us, Kansas State, Texas, Oklahoma, even Texas Tech is only 2 games back at this point right now. And Oklahoma State's up there. There are so many good teams that are in this conference, but the SEC is even worse. They are more tight. They are more logjam than we are. So losing to Arkansas is not the worst thing in the world. Just because their record says they're 7-3, that's bowl eligible, guys. I mean, in the SEC, only losing twice in the SEC is really, really good. So, especially in the SEC West, where they have Alabama, Auburn, Texas A&M, LSU, that is just, I don't know how you cannot get through those games without getting more than 1 or 2 losses. That's just, hey, Chris Thompson, the guard from Odessa, Texas, he is finally committed. He will be a Horned Frog next year. He's a pass blocker from Odessa, and we've got him for next season. So that is big. That is our first and maybe our only recruit that will commit here in Week 12. But like I said, going back to talking about Arkansas, we could have had that game as well. We could be undefeated right now, as that game, Kemp had some big, costly interceptions in the first half. He stepped up his game in the second half and almost led us to a comeback victory over the Razorbacks on the road. They just didn't have enough time, and Kemp threw another costly interception late to seal it for Arkansas. But that was a fun game. Even though we lost that one, that was a fun one to see. Even though Kemp was struggled, those teams with the offense, if they were able to face again, I'm pretty confident that the Horned Frogs would win that one. Just because Kemp was still struggling, that was his first road game, big road game, because he had played at Kansas, and Kansas is Kansas. Kansas is awful. So, I mean, if you're a Kansas fan, I'm just stating the facts, aren't I? You guys are just stick to basketball, Jayhawk fans. All kidding aside, so the first real tough battle that he had on the road was Arkansas, and he struggled. And I mean, this team is a very young team, and the nerves were there, and And it showed on the field, and that's the only reason why we're not undefeated now is they calmed down, and they beat Boise State at home, they beat Florida State at home, they beat West Virginia on the road, they beat Texas Tech at home. Who else did they beat? They beat Oklahoma State on the road, no less. They beat, who did they win against? I think they won. Yeah, they won against Kansas State, obviously, last week. I forgot to mention that one, but, this team is a really good team, and the only reason why they're not undefeated is because we struggled and had the nerves at Arkansas. So that's what I see in store for the rest of this series. We're gonna go jump into some more recruiting here. I believe we have 3 more recruits to call this week, and then we'll jump into week 13 next episode. For episodes 23 and 24, episode 23 will be the week 13 recruiting update, and episode 24 will be the game against Texas. That's going to be a tough one. That's the Thanksgiving game, week 13 in Austin, Texas, against the Longhorns. And at this point, I could start calling each of these games a battle for the Big 12, because that is how close this thing really is. Because when we were behind Kansas State, we focused on Kansas State because they were the only team ahead of us. Now that we're in first place because we knocked off Kansas State and have the tiebreaker over them, we have to focus on who's behind us. And for right now, we've got to focus on the Texas game and go out there and get a victory and hope that we can have a good game against Oklahoma, because that will give us the Big 12 championship. If we can go out and play rough football like we know how to run it out, and if we can get our running game going early against the Longhorns, then I don't see why we couldn't win that game. And Oklahoma is really, really bad at covering our receivers. Their secondary is almost I don't see how with their secondary they only have 1 loss on the season. There must have been a bunch of cakewalks. Their only loss, I believe, is to Texas. Their only loss was to Kansas State, so that means they do have the tiebreaker over Texas. So, because Kansas State was undefeated, I forgot that. So Oklahoma's only loss is to Kansas State. Kansas State's only loss is to us, and we don't have any Big 12 losses yet. Our only loss is to Arkansas, but that's not a Big 12 loss. So we are the only team that has not lost a game in conference play. And Texas has lost to Oklahoma. That's their only conference loss, but they still have to play Kansas State, and they still have to play us as well. That's their last 2 games. You think our last 2 games are tough? They've got us, and they've got Kansas State. So yeah, they've got pretty tough schedule themselves. Oklahoma has Oklahoma State next week, and then they've got us week 14, but that's a road game and for them, a home game for us. So we got one more guy that we're going to call soon. I think we're going to look for one more that is interested in the Horned Frogs. I think we're searching for a halfback, it looks like. So anyway, while I have a moment, leave your comments below as to how you guys think this season is gonna. I can't talk. Excuse me, guys. Leave a comment below and tell me how you guys think this season's gonna turn out. I'm interested to see what you guys think, because I think we can get it done. I think we can win both of these games on the road against Texas and at home against Oklahoma. And then that would make us Big 12 champions, and then we'd have a BCS bowl game at least. We would have a BCS bowl game at least, and who knows who we'd play in that one. It depends on where. Most likely, unless we make the national championship game, we're going to go to Glendale, Arizona to face off against the Big East. I think we're going to, in the end, make it to the Fiesta Bowl. It depends on how the rankings go, because we're number 4 right now, and unless we get help from teams that are playing above, if they're playing teams that are above us and they can knock them off, then that will help us out. I think Oklahoma is up there too. I think Oklahoma is either just in front of us or just behind us. I'm gonna have to go check the standings after I do this commentary, but they're pretty close there too. So that could be a potential big matchup. I mean, that could be for the BCS if we don't focus ahead, or if we don't like get ahead of ourselves and just assume we're going to beat Texas. So that's the mentality of Coach Big Troll and Gary Patterson and all those guys right now, is to go out next week after having a big, good old Thanksgiving meal with the families and having that before Thanksgiving. Then they'll have to go out and go to Austin, have a big game next week against the Longhorns. So we are done with recruiting for Week 12, and we are jumping to Week 13. You see, Texas was ranked number 25 in the latest poll, but here as we jump into Week 13, we might jump up a spot or two. It all depends on how teams in front of us did, and obviously we won't find that out until we advance fully into Week 13, but there's I'd say about a minute and a half remaining in this commentary, so I really am interested in seeing how you guys think this is going to turn out, because I honestly think we're going to go to the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl. I do not expect I do not expect. I think Wisconsin's in front of us. Either Wisconsin or USC or someone is in front of us, and I do not expect them to lose, because Wisconsin's got a pretty tough schedule in the Big Ten, but USC, their only big test left is UCLA, and unless they lose to UCLA, you can pretty much pencil them in for the BCS National Championship. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to hopefully have a chance at it, but in the end, I think we're going to end up in Glendale for the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl. So if this thing will ever decide that it wants to advance to Week 13 and stop preparing the studio updates, we'll get into that. You see it right there, just to recap, our guard that we got to commit from Odessa, Chris Thompson, I believe his name was our only commit from Week 12. And we're going to jump into Week 13 now, guys, after it saves. The Horned Frogs have another tough test this week, as they will face off against the Texas Longhorns on the road. Their last road game before bowl season. They're number 22, and we are number 3. We're 9-1. They're 7-3. Come back for episode 23. It'll be the recruiting update, and we will join you next time. See you guys.